least thought.
Welcome to Inside the Firm, a podcast dedicated to small business owners and hosted by entrepreneurs, Alex Gore and Lance Cayko. Each week, they take you on their journey of how to start, run, and grow a business by bringing you inside their architecture and real estate development firm. Get a behind-the-scenes tour of how these business leaders manage their clients and foster company culture while creating new and innovative projects. And now your hosts, Alex Gore and Lance Cayko.
Welcome to another episode of Inside the Firm. I am Alex, Luxury Division Gore, Pella Luxury Division Gore. I am here with Lance, Pella Luxury Division Cayko.
Wow, we're matching.
So excited about that. Lance, kick us off.
Well, let me tell you, this little rant was posted on on social media the other day, and I just wanted to read it to you.
Okay.
You know you're an architect when?
Am I supposed to answer? No.
No. You have either reprogrammed the F1 key to register as escape, have removed the keycap, or taped over it because of how many times you have opened the help file instead of escaping out of a command. You spend all morning in Photoshop, then transition to AutoCAD, and it takes you a minute to figure out why holding down the spacebar won't let you pan in your drawing. Your chat windows are full of all caps texting, and never think someone is yelling at you. They are just doing notes. Spending all morning in AutoCAD before a transition to SketchUp. I see you shorting out over there, Al, and it takes you a few minutes to realize that hitting space after the command keys in SketchUp is pointless. I'm sure there are more. What you got? What do you got, Al? Are you an architect?
You are an architect from 1996 who hasn't realized that it is 2022. It's no offense, this can happen. It's worse than this.
It's so bad.
Okay. Remember when you used to have to use your card at the store and they didn't have a machine and they had to put the paper over it and they had that thing that slided over to copy?
Oh, God. Credit card, yeah.
So it's like it's 2022 and you're like, you might be shopping at a grocery store if you're taking out your credit card, and they take out this 14-pound machine.
Can I do one better? You take out your checkbook, and then you write an actual physical check at the grocery store, and then you like fill out your little check balance withdraw
without moving.
Yeah, without moving, and make sure your checkbook is balanced.
So
you might be that person.
Okay, that's where I was initially gonna go, but people still do that. So I'm saying that's worse. Like this is worse.
The credit card is worse. Yes, for sure.
Than that.
Yeah. So you know what you need to do? If you are still that 1996 person, you need to go to RevitRocketShip.com. You need to get on the rocket ship. You need to reduce the amount of frickin' software and headache. I don't think you're practicing architecture the way you should be. It's that simple. Like, why you could do, here's what you could do. You are going to, if you get on the Revit rocket ship, you are going to reduce the amount of software you even have to use you're going to reduce it by
factor of 3.
By a factor of 3. You're going to go from go ahead.
AutoCAD, SketchUp, and Photoshop to Revit.
Done.
That's it.
What are you doing with your life?
Yeah.
This is not the way to operate. Seriously.
Yeah. Stop that, please, and go to RevitRocketShip.com. I just had a builder that was trained as an architect. But then his dad got sick. He had to take over the construction side, did that for 20 years, getting back into architecture. This is him saying it. I'll ask if he can record, a review or something. He literally paid for multiple different courses, multiple different templates, and he kept searching because he's like, why can't we just do it? Why can't we mimic construction? This is modeling. Why can't we simplify it? And he saw ours, and he's bought in. He's literally had his wife asked, because he's so busy, he's like, why don't you expand? And he's like, I don't have a handle on this Revit. How am I going to teach them so that it doesn't go off in all different directions?
Yep.
And he's like, now I can. The other thing, too, that he said is some of the other ones, he goes, there's positives and benefits. Like they might go into more detail on stuff, but ours is very practical and simplified. And then he talked about how, and I've seen this on more complicated projects, their Revit template, They organize by view templates. And I go, this is an old AutoCAD way of thinking. Did
everybody see me short out just now? I just shorted out.
Yeah. Anyways, from the horse's mouth filtered through my mouth.
Yeah.
At least check it out. Because he's like, I've wasted thousands of dollars and thousands of hours and, searching other places.
Yep.
RevitRocketShip.com. Check it out.
Yep. My response to this in the social media thread was, I would say you avoid all this if you switch to Revit and get on the RevitRocketShip.com. And I just want to give a special shout out to Dalton Webb. He says, Lance Cayko, I completely agree. I have looked over your course and love it. I have suggested to many people. Love your podcast, by the way. Thank you, Dalton. Really appreciate that. Yep. The other thing you should get on board with is ARCAT. Once you get on the Revit Rocket Ship, you move right over to ARCAT because with project conditions changing and limited time to get things done, it's good to have information at your fingertips. ARCAT.com provides architects, engineers, spec writers, and contractors with the most comprehensive libraries of building product content and design so you can access it quickly and efficiently. Even better, ARCAT.com is free to use, and my favorite part, requires no registration. So visit today and access the information you need now.
You have never experienced a brand like this before. It is Pella Luxury. This collection of brands within the luxury division of Pella are conversation starters, the pioneers of the industry who provided window and door solutions to discerning architects and the building industry and beyond. That's like Star Trek and beyond. To infinity and beyond. Buzz Lightyear, new movie coming out next Christmas. I thought it was this Christmas. They confused me by the early release. Side note. They have decades of experience creating things no one else in the world is creating, and the collection of brands are brought together to complement and build on one another. Don't push beyond the limits. They don't push beyond the limits.
They don't do it.
They set the limits.
Absolutely.
Explore PellaLuxury.com/inside the firm.
Check those guys out. They support us, and if you support them, you're supporting us. So just follow that link, check them out. Well, I want to get today's show started off with a buzzword that we hear all the time. And so first article we're going to talk about today is written by Duo. Let me make sure I get his name. Duo Dickinson. Yeah. If you don't know who Duo is, he is actually pretty popular. He's got a radio show that he does on architecture, and he writes a lot, and he's also a practicing architect. Check him out. He is at least thought-provoking in his writing, whether you agree with it or not. And the headline today is on arcdaily.com, The Impossibility of Equity. So you're going to hear this buzzword. If you haven't heard this buzzword, I think it's a buzzword because, like, once you get down to the substance of it, then we've talked about it before, is like, what does that really mean? And at the end of the day, in my opinion, what it means transferring capital from one set of people to another set of people, because you're trying to make things more equitable, right?
Sure.
But diving into the article here, equity is a moving target. We who create architecture want our devotion to have a true form of objective equity, but motivations are not outcomes. How we judge design inevitably carries the baggage of, quote, style, and that makes universal equity in design apprehension impossible. Does that make sense, Al? Do you buy it?
Because it's styles.
And then it's subjective again, right?
Yeah. Well, I honestly, yes. It depends on who you ask, and thinking about. Yeah, it's like your taste in design. How can taste design be equal outcome?
It's impossible. I think that's the whole point, right? So he goes on to say, at this moment, there are about as many women as men in architecture school. The story of two fully and fantastically successful architects who happen to be female says a lot about the impossibility of equity when it comes to how outcomes are perceived in architecture. Architecture is both popular trade and rarefied art. Those two distinct worlds of judgment are often so separate as to offer zero possibility of equity between them. The two careers of these two women show how success in building an expression can be fully present in one sphere while silent in the other. I can compare these extraordinary humans because what I do enabled me to set see them both before their bright light was shown to a wider world. I have written 8 books and published the work of almost 100 architects. Rather than adopt stylistic screeds of either modern or traditional, which absurdly try to define beauty, I included the great good work of those who were making the things I wrote about. Small houses or additions or other building types are the reason I write, not to polish any aesthetic lens. In 1990, the book Common Walls / Private Homes, written by John Nolan, and showed me scores of multifamily projects across the country. In it, we featured an unbuilt housing project designed by Dale Mulfinger and Sarah Suzanka. You know who Sarah Suzanka is. It was the first time Sarah Suzanka's work had been nationally published. In the intervening decade, Sarah's work exploded on the country as she captured the zeitgeist of many in response to the insanity of a McMansion-era home marketing. Sarah Suzanka wrote The Not So Big House. I've read that book. It's a good book. I think the thought process is right. There's always these reactions, like we swing too far to the left, we go back to the right to left, up, down, all of that, right? So I think her reaction was exactly that, like this reaction to these McMansions. The homes of her design, shown in that and subsequent book, were cleanly crafty, using natural wood, flowing space, and essentially domesticity of residential architecture. Suzanka was featured multiple times on Oprah Winfrey's television show, and then on scores of national media platforms. She lectured widely, wrote perhaps a dozen more books, even created the, quote, not so big lifestyle movement, end quote. But the elite architectural press was near silent in celebrating her architecture. No equity of outcome between fine arts world and the popular culture of glossy magazines at the supermarket checkout lines and cable TV, where her work found infinite validation. There is no more well-known architect in America than that of Sarah Suzanka.
I think she is one of the most well-known. But that goes to like these awards. And I was talking with one of the previous Monday morning episode, started with a T. You know who I'm talking about? Anyways.
Like just of this month? I mean,
yes.
just of this week?
Yep. Lance will find
Tima.
it. Yep, Tima.
Tima Bell. Right?
Yep, Tima Bell. And he was talking about how art, the value of art, is really looked through the lens of the value of the story. Because, like, the skill levels varies so much, right? So it's the story behind it. And I was starting to make the point, too, and I think it relates to this. It's the same thing in architecture, right? If you think about the most massive awards, the most massive accolades, they're going to come from the most massive projects that have the most massive cultural impact and have the best story. So, for example, the prototypical one is the World Trade Center redesign, right? A lot of architects, big project, huge event, like,
and the press to surround it was massive, right?
And then all of a sudden,
and like, how could you not see the press around it? I mean, it was, everybody knows what happened on 9/11. Like, it's bound to happen. Go ahead.
And all of a sudden, you get an architectural solution that links history by 1776, flows all the way down, all the way into the pits of 9/11, with an architect who has a backstory of his grandmother had to flee. I think he was in the belly during World War II and get away from oppression and the Nazis. So it's like all of this came together and accumulated into, here is an award. And you're a famous architect. He's like a star architect. Now, rationally, could someone be a great designer and actually design a better building for that area? Probably. But does it have that? It's
totally possible. How about that?
Totally possible.
Yeah, that's all. Yeah.
Does it have that story? Does it have that connection? Does it have that cultural relevance? So while Susan might have a bigger relevance on the general public, it doesn't check all those other boxes. And for example, you could argue, like, why doesn't she? Because it is such a huge impact that she has, but it doesn't check those other boxes. Well, why doesn't a home builder who makes 10,000 homes and makes a couple small improvements so that, hey, they're actually less impactful on the environment, they have better spaces, right? It's just, I'm using that example, it's just not that culturally influencing and relevant. Even though it's weird because, like, it's relevant to our daily lives, but it's not that epic story. It's not Star Wars. It's not, like Guardians of the Galaxy.
Was Rudy a good football player? No, he had an excellent story.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. So it's not like you can't think of it. You can't put, let's say, Susan down because she didn't win Architect of the Year when. What are you judging on? Your impact on your life or the impact on a headline?
Yeah, exactly. What are the parameters and the framework we're judging this on?
Yep. It ties to the news cycle. Like, they will bring up sensational things that really do not affect you whatsoever. Yeah. But it's just because they get conversation going. They're huge icon things. So that's the way the world works. At least understand it.
This kind of reminds... So, like, all of her work relates to residential architecture, and so for anybody who's doing residential architecture or homes, I think one of the things that I've when we go to talk with our buddies, our colleagues who are doing big civic work, they have in the past tried to talk down to us. So anybody who's listening who's a small firm architect that is doing residential architecture, like, the one thing I would say to you is that so if you're on along these lines of, you're not getting all this press, you're not getting all these accolades, like, you're just, and then they say you're just doing houses. Don't forget, those people that you're designing houses for, you're probably affecting their life and having a bigger impact than the Civic Center. Yep. They live in the house. They might die in the house, right? They're going to get sick in the house. They could have a baby in the house. Like, way different. Yep. So it's the same sort of analogy here of, like, okay, maybe Suzanne isn't getting all of this recognition, but I bet, I hope she knows the impact she's had. Yeah. And, like, it's bigger than those awards, those accolades.
Yep. Like the Clifford Still Museum. Probably won a bunch of awards, amazing architecture. People probably know that name. Look it up in Denver. It's awesome, right?
$1,000 a square foot back in the day. Yep. Crazy budget.
Yep. You might... Me living in Denver, in Colorado, might visit that once every 3 years for 2 hours. Versus I live in my house for a lot of hours for a lot of time. So where's the impact?
Yeah. So counter to Suzanne, then Duo goes further and talks about another gal. I think the contrast is interesting here. So in 1997, I wrote Expressive Details, featuring about 40 architects whose work was shown in about 60 different details. Anne Ferguson's, I hope I'm pronouncing that correctly, work got my attention, and she happily sent me 2 examples of it. Tiny things she was working on. The next decade, her work, as did Sarah Suzanka's, exploded. But Anne Ferguson was not on Oprah's TV show, but rather she was featured in Architectural Record. Literally the opposite then, if you think about it, right? Yeah. And Architecture magazines, exhibits, and received unending AIA and other national awards and recognitions. Her leanly expressive beauty in building is the essence of modern sensibility. There is no more celebrated architect than Anne Ferguson. 2 extraordinary women created equity of outcome with all the rest of their peers, but their outcomes in the same field found distinct validation in fully separated worlds. Why? I think it is because the iniquitous apprehension of style categorizes all design without merit beyond the comfort of controlling definition. There is no equity in segregation. Beauty is the soul of equity. How can we react to everything, including all the things that are designed, does not have the luxury of having a universal equity in outcome. We are either moved by the outcomes of others or we are not, rather than simply react to the beauty of Suzanka's craft or Ferguson's lines. Their buildings are judged traditional or modern, consigned to a separate but never equal duality of judgment. I wish Sarah Suzanka's architecture was a feature in Architectural Record houses. I wish that Anne Ferguson's work as a focus of fine home buildings houses issue. I have had features in both when there was a tiny touch of aesthetic equity in architectural requisition, but no more. The irony of a lack of equity in their aesthetic outcomes belies the joy found in their human equity in the profession of architecture.
Cool. Too many big words for me for that last part, but I think how I would define the problem, if you view this as a problem, is if you want that to be more recognized, you need to change the story, right? Or at least realize that it's coming from the story. So residential architecture awards. How do you make that the story that influences other people's lives? And the biggest hurdle to that is like once other people see those, a lot of people do like residential architecture, but it essentially boils down to that's great for that person that lives there. I might take one idea from that, but maybe in a new house if I ever build one, which most people don't, so it only affects 1% of the population. And you have to know that you're competing against, hey, here is a great museum that is awesome, that's super cool looking, and there's really great art in it. Oh, I might take my kids to it. Oh, I might go to it. Which story is going to win out? And I'm saying that's the challenge that you have to overcome if you think that for this case or for our case, residential architecture has more impact, so it should get more press and you should be more praised and you should be more of a star architect. Can you beat out that other story? I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't think so.
Yeah.
If you can, I'm all for you.
Yep. Okay. Next I want to talk about architectural fees.
Nice.
So I've got somebody posted this article the other day in the Entre Architect community, architecturalfees.com. Architectural fees for homes and buildings explained. And basically, I went to the average architect fee for a house. So this episode is called "What is the average architect's fee to design a new home?" I want to get Al's take on this and see what he thinks. So, architectural fees is posted as a free. Hang on here. Sorry, we'll go to architecturalfees.com/architect fee for a house. Architect fee for a house for basic services. Ready, Al?
Okay.
New project 8% to 10% plus. Sure. Renovation house project 12% to 15% plus. With various additional services, either new home design or renovation design could be up to 20% plus. Example math for a $1 million house, okay?
Okay, give it to me.
New house, 10% times $1 million, $100,000 for ballpark basic architecture fees. Renovation design of a house, 15% times $1 million, $150,000 for ballpark basic architecture fees. The renovation, I'm kind of blown away that it's actually even more. I don't know, maybe you have an idea why?
Yeah, because they're normally more difficult, but for a lower cost. Meaning renovation, you're only doing so many square feet, so you're only going to put $200,000 into it, but the level of detail and care of connecting it and all that is greater. So
I think that's smart. That's a good way to think about it. Right. So you're not really spending. The problem is what that $1 million that they put out, I'm not sure. Is that really? Are you really basing it on the value of the house? I don't know about that. Does that make sense? Really, shouldn't it be 15? Well, yeah, maybe you do base it on the value of the house, but then truly you are only spending $200,000.
Yep.
Yeah. With additional services, $1 million times 20% equals $200,000 architect fee. Now let's do a few more examples because there seems to be an inability for many people to do basic math. Wow.
Can I give you some real world examples?
Yes.
So here in Colorado, if you're doing $1 million house, you'll have fee ranges between $15,000 and $40,000. So we didn't even hit that $100,000 mark. I'm sure there are $100,000 ones for $1 million houses.
So I asked a potential client earlier this week, or maybe it was last week, doesn't matter. These are one of the fire victim folks. They're not currently under contract, but they were. We had an initial meet and greet via Zoom, talked about it, sent them a proposal. And at the end of the meeting, I did ask, they said, okay, we're meeting with a few other architects, or we've met with a few other architects. And I go, oh, great. Just curious, what kind of fees are you seeing? Because sometimes people will answer that question, sometimes people will not.
Yep.
And I like to just test the waters.
Sure.
And they said, we've heard the ranges between $25,000 and $35,000. So just to throw out some numbers at you guys who are listening, right? Is this real or not?
So to keep going, we had a house that was within that range, but the client said, oh, it seems high, but I don't know. Literally said, I'm going to ask a couple of architects.
Yep.
Literally got back to us the next day. They go, seems like your fees are right in line.
Nice.
Yep.
Nice.
And then California, which you think should have these higher fees. Hey, I'm all for higher fees, right? A client literally said, doing a $5 million house, architecture fees was $150,000. That's not 10%. It's not 10%.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. No source out there today seems to disagree. Here we are. with the 8% to 20% range for architectural fees, which can and will be higher if more additional services. So we're the source that's disagreeing, and we're telling you on the ground numbers. And we're coming at it from hey, we've been here for doing this for now technically 12 years. Clearly we haven't gone bankrupt. Clearly we've given out bonuses. Clearly we do okay. So just throwing that out there to the author here. But some sources out there seem to have a very poor understanding of what the construction cost might be of residential projects. This is where I think they actually get real, Al. So no misunderstanding of the percentage for an architect. We just did 8 to 20% multiplied by construction cost, real cost, as opposed to wishful thinking. And that's a critical point too. I think always having the realistic thinking, you in line with clients, even if they don't like the numbers you're telling them, or you got to tell them the truth. Some very few sources have indicated that an architect's fee might be around $2,000 to $8,000. This doesn't make any sense, and here's why. Okay, ready, Al?
Ready.
Doing the reverse math means that construction costs would be $25,000 to $100,000. These days, that's not going to get you much of a house. In fact, that is, if for a whole new house, that makes no sense at all. Construction costs these days for a new home are likely to vary between $300 to $400 for a basic to relatively nice house. I would agree. I would agree with the author, right?
Yep.
But can be much higher, $500 a square foot, depending on materials and features. So if a medium house around 2,500 square feet, which that's really where we're at in America, that means it's likely going to cost $7,500 to $1 million to build it. If you don't believe this, you really need to have some serious conversations with a quality licensed contractors and architects in your area. You can make it smaller and you can reduce the features and quality of everything to make it cost less, but at some point you are going to rebel and say to yourself that you will have some quality and features you want if you're going to do it at all. Okay, here's the math.
Okay.
A new house costing $750,000 times 8% equals $60,000 low-end architect fee for only basic services. Now let's look at $750,000 times 15%, $112,000 architect fee, and now $750,000 to 20% equals $150,000 architect fee. And then for a new house of $1 million, right? $1 million times 8%, $80,000. These are easy math. $1 million times 15%, $150,000. $1 million times 20%. So the goal with this was they kind of end with saying, hopefully these examples will give you a better idea of realistic architecture basic fees and realistic construction costs. Did it give you that, Al?
It did, because I think this is a big thing that it's combating, where I would also agree with the author. I think it was the entree architect community. But I've seen it in a lot of pro formas of contractors, construction, just all over the place. Line items for architects, $2,000, $4,000 for a house. It's like, you're not going to get a house designed for $2,000 or $4,000.
Yeah, where the author said $2,000 to $8,000, he or she is completely correct.
Yeah,
I would agree with that.
Yep.
But this idea that no one else agrees because you're here to hear it from us, from the horse's mouth here, mouths. I don't agree with that.
Yeah,
at all. Okay. I mean, at the end of the day, just to kind of recap, like, well, what should your fees be? That's up to you. It's up to you to analyze what is your cost of living, what are your operational costs, and then what is the market going to bear? Because you could try for 8% to 20% all day long, and maybe you never get it in the area you're operating. What if you're in a rural area, right? Something like that.
Yep.
And then at the end of the day, you need to sort of decide subjectively again, like what do I want to make? What is my goal? Where do I get comfortable at? What do I need to do? There's a lot of factors, but there's no real hard and fast numbers. Like, I just can't emphasize that enough.
Yeah. I do think people should be pushing it up. I think it takes a lot more time and effort than people think. I don't know if the consumers...
Yeah, don't sell yourself short, right?
Yeah.
Literally.
Yeah. So, that's all I got.
Actually, I think you have something else. Or are we just going to skip ahead to Nick Reed's?
No.
Yeah, you had an opinion piece, didn't you? I don't think that was me. If it was me, then I'm going to move that to next episode, sir.
Move it to next episode, sir.
Awesome. All right. Well, then we do have Nick.
Well, no. What about this Wall Street Journal article?
Oh, I just wanted to give everybody a little forewarning here about this. So, I'm actually going to hit the hit the record button one more time here on my computer if I can. Will it let me do it? It won't let me do it. Doesn't matter. We'll just do this old school, okay? So we talk about. We're actually not talking about inflation too much today.
But okay, time out though. Inflation numbers for this month came out. I think it was 7.4.
7.5. 7.5 exactly. Yeah. That's how much it was.
Do you think? I thought the Fed should have already raised interest rates last time.
Yeah.
I don't know how
they can't, because the market crashes every time. They know better. They're in a corner. I've said this before. They're backed into a corner of a corner. They can't do anything. They're really in trouble. We're all in trouble.
So they dig a cliff on one side. Mm-hmm. When they're already on the side of a cliff, they don't want to fill in any of their cliffs. Okay.
Yeah, exactly. I am
all
actually,
right. That's responsible.
Look at that. I got my computer to work. Okay. So once again, if you're watching on the YouTube here, I've got the Wall Street Journal pulled up, and this should be another warning sign, right? I mean, if you've listened to this podcast, you know how we keep up on inflation and the economy, and hopefully trying to show some patterns and help you prepare for the worst or the best. But in this case, the worst. So this is a big red flag, and the headline is U.S. households took on $1 trillion in new debt in 2021. Increase is largest since 2007. We all know what happened in 2008. And was largely a result of a big jump in mortgages and auto loans. Americans took on more debt in 2021 than in any year since before the 2008-2009 financial crisis. And that is exactly why I'm bringing it up again. This is a red flag. Total household debt rose by $1.02 trillion last year, boosted by higher balances on home and auto loans, the Federal Reserve Bank of New York said Tuesday. It was the largest increase since a $1.06 trillion jump in 2007. Total consumer debt now sits around $15.6 trillion compared with $14.6 trillion a year earlier.
Yeah. It's weird because I wish I'm not a economic.
You're not a major. You're not a PhD.
Yep. But you're
an armchair quarterback.
Their normal remedy is to increase the interest rate to reduce the supply of money, right? And it actually follows that reduces the price of what people can sell for, what people can offer, brings down home prices. I wish that they had a tool or a mechanism where they could keep the interest rate the same, but they lowered the amount people could actually borrow. Meaning, let's just say, whatever number, I can have a loan up to 33% of my income. Instead of raising the interest rate, because that's going to hurt people in the future, you're literally just paying money to a bank that made up money.
Yeah.
Right? If they said, hey, instead of 33%, the Fed made a decision, we'll only loan out 28%. I wish they had to attack it that way. I don't know all the ramifications of that, but I don't like that people get stuck in high interest rates just because you're turning 28 and you need an actual house because you just had a baby or have another one on the way, and now all of a sudden you have to pay more for the house in interest than before.
Yeah. If you're wondering, hey Lance, what is the next warning sign that I should take a look that I should be looking for? And your next warning sign that you should be looking for is as soon as credit starts to, what Alex was talking about is like credit is restricted. So as soon as the rates start raising, and then the credit, and they have to, there's no way around this, and credits and the access to credit starts to freeze up, that's when the crashes happen. And that happens because people cannot pay their bills. They literally cannot pay their bills. It's that simple when it comes down to it.
And
they can't pay their loan.
Now you're saying there's a restriction of money coming into the whole system, and couple that with what you just said, we just had a record of people taking out debt. So that's where you're saying they can't pay back.
Yes.
Yep.
Yes, exactly. It's the perfect storm every single time. And it looks like we actually do not have a Nick Reads. Am I reading that right?
Ooh, I don't remember one coming in.
Yeah, so that's my fault, Nick, for saying we had one today. But, it's all right. I'm sure you're doing fine down there. Living it up.
Yep. I might.
You got an Al Reads?
I almost had an Al Read.
Oh.
Wait. Popping up. Okay. This comes from Alex Garcia on the Twitters at Alex Garcia _ATX. I just saw it. I thought it was cool. Bad marketing copy. This is what I do. This is what it does. This is why it's cool. It's bad marketing copy.
Say that again.
This is what I do. This is what it does. This is why it's cool.
Okay, that's bad. Yep.
That's bad. Which seems like that seems like an okay kind of thing. Right? He states good marketing copy. Okay. This is what you're facing.
Okay.
This is how I can help you solve that.
Mm-hmm.
This is what differentiates me. This is why the product is right for you. And this is my promise.
Because it's all about the consumer instead of you. God, I love that. I love that.
Substituting for Nick, I am Alex Gore with Nick Reeds.
He's so short right now. It's silly. I can't even see him.
So happy to be on the podcast. Thank you for everything.
Toodles.
Toodles.
All right, let's bring down the crew.
Toodles.
Yeah. Let's bring down the
Nick, please watch that portion that just happened on YouTube.
And leave us a comment on the YouTube. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, what do we got next, Al?
We have A.R.E. Jeopardy. Let's bring down the team. All right, here we go. A.R.E. Jeopardy question number 1. Drip edges shall be overlapped a minimum of how many inches horizontally?
It should be easy.
Is it A, 2 inches, B, 1 inch, C, 4 inch, D, 1.5 inch?
This is an easy one.
Write down your answer, sir, so you don't lie to me. Put your fingers. Put how many?
I'll
fingers?
tell you what I would do.
Yeah.
Whether it's if I beat code, I still win.
Okay. Answers: A, 2 inches. C, A. The correct answer is A, 2 inches.
Yay! I win.
Okay. Lance is playing. Okay, Lance, get this one right.
All right.
The vertical leg of a drip edge. So it'll be a minimum of how much inches? So when you go down, when you wrap down, that was horizontal. First one was horizontal. This one's coming down. So is it A, 2 inches, B, 1 inch, C, 4 inches, D, 1.5 inches?
I got my answer.
B, 1 inch, A, 2 inches. What did you say? C, 4 inches. No, D, 1.5 inch. Wow. You get to keep your license today.
Used to be a roofer, yep. All right, number 3. Which is not a supplement to the bid forms? A, bid security form. B, subcontractor list. C, designer's list. D, substitution list. Which is not a supplement to the bid forms? This is an AIA question, by the way. Clearly. A, bid security form. B, subcontractor list. C, designer's list. D, substitution list. We have B, C, Bailey.
A.
The correct answer is C, designer's list. It is not a supplement.
And while that might be more closely aligned to the test, my questions weren't so that you knew the specific answer, but know that if there was a question, it is in the code book what these are. If any, you can go and look and find out.
Sure. What do we got for scores? 1. Just 1? Dang, y'all. Number 4, ADA showers must be equipped with all of the following, but what? A, fold down seat. B, a shower head attached to a flexible supply house. C, grab bars. D, stepless curb. Or E, 60-inch radius for turning. ADA showers must be equipped with all but the following. What do we got? We got E, C. Correct answer is E.
There we go.
I believe Jason wins.
Jason, you win. Where are we going? 60-inch turning radius inside.
Yeah.
You don't need that inside. You can't be in the shop.
And it's not real because you only have to be, I think, 30 inches wide for an ADA shower now.
Yeah.
There you go.
There you go. Thanks for listening. Go to RevitRockChip.com.
If you like this episode, please share this episode with a friend, a colleague. If you're watching on YouTube, hit that like button, subscribe, leave us a comment. If you're listening terrestrially, please leave us a 5-star review. We'll see you next week.